just a few showers to watch out for before more rain arrives in time for the beginning of next week. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Ratner. In County Durham, big problems on the A1M. The motorway is currently blocked northbound, junctions 60 to 61, that short stretch between Bradbury and Thoburn, where a car is on fire. North of Cambridge, the M11 remains blocked northbound, 13 to 14, at the scene of an accident. And on the M1 in Leicestershire, the two outside lanes are shut northbound, junction 24 at the East Midlands Airport turn-off south of Nottingham for an ongoing medical emergency. Just a heads up, the Surrey stretch of the M25 will be closing from 9 o'clock tonight for the weekend. Major works from the A3 to Chertsey in conjunction with the improvement works, of course. And if you're heading out of Essex into Kent, the QA2 bridge is partly blocked, where a two-van collision is being dealt with. Queues on the M25 back to the A127. M5 in Devon shut both ways, 28 to 29 north of Exeter for accident investigation work. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
£30,000 in cash has to be won. It's our biggest cash prize so far, and it could be yours. Phil was a winner. Listen to what he says about winning the Great British Giveaway.
Hi, my name's Phil Cox. I just looked at my account and thought, oh my God, yeah, it's true, it's gone into my account. And if I can win it, anybody can win it.
The next big winner could be you, with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, happy Friday at 6 o'clock. I'm Dawn Neeson, standing in for the lovely Michelle on Dewbs and Co tonight. Cracking show coming up, so I don't want you going anywhere at all. Now, the NATO summit has finished and Keir Starmer has promised more money to Ukraine. And Joe Biden, well, what do you say, keeps on making blunders at the very best. Meanwhile, King Charles has been seen fist-bumping the West Indies cricket team, and the Prince of Wales has lost his voice due to cheering on England. Do we want the monarchy to be more like us, or should they be more, I don't know, a bit like our late Queen, maybe? And in a music festival in London, a band, and I quote, clothing, garments and items which promote cultural appropriation. It's a music festival, people. What does that even mean? Is it the fun police in full-on patrol this summer? Plus, England, yes, come on, not far to go. We play in the Euros final, and so you might have noticed, not been mentioned much, Euros final on Sunday. But should the Mayor of London, yes, Sadiq Khan, get England flags flying on the capital streets? We seem to have every other flag flying, so what's wrong with that St George's flag, eh? That's all to come in the next hour. You don't want to miss it, but first, let's get the latest news headlines with the lovely Sam.
Dawn, thank you very much, and good evening to you. It's just after 6 o'clock. On the story leading the news this evening, the Metropolitan Police has now taken over the investigation into human remains that were found in 2 suitcases near the Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol. If you're watching on television, these are the live pictures coming to us from now in West London, where there is a increased police presence outside a block of flats in the Shepherd's Bush area. Officers there say the suspect is thought to have travelled from London to Bristol, where the suspect left the suitcases containing human remains. We now know the bodies are said to be of 2 adult men. Well, this afternoon, police have also issued a warning not to approach the suspect involved in the case, with detectives urging anyone who may see him or know his whereabouts to call 999 immediately. Any more details on that story, we will bring them to you as we get them. In other news, a security guard has been jailed today for life with a minimum term of 15 years for plotting to kidnap, to rape and to murder the TV presenter Holly Willoughby. The judge said Gavin Plum had a history of attacking women and hatched his sadistic, brutal and degrading plan over a number of years.
Planned this attack on Miss Willoughby over a 2-year period, scoping her movements, seeking help from others and buying items that would incapacitate and inflict violence. He is not a fantasist. He's a calculating sexual predator who has spent his adult life seeking to inflict violence on women.
DCI Greg Wood there from Kent and Essex Police. Well, a 26-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of the murders of 3 women in Hertfordshire. 61-year-old Carol Hunt and her 2 daughters, 25-year-old Louise and 28-year-old Hannah, were attacked at their home in Bushey. Hertfordshire police say the main suspect has now been treated for injuries in hospital since then, but was only arrested today. He remains, though, in a serious condition. The head of the Prison Governors Association is warning that the government's early release scheme will include prisoners convicted of assault and relatively serious and violent offences. The Justice Secretary confirmed today that thousands of prisoners who've served 40% of their sentences will be released to tackle what she's called the prison overcrowding crisis. Shabana Mahmood says failing to act now risks the collapse of the criminal justice system. And she's also promising to strictly monitor those who are freed early and to recruit more probation officers. The Home Secretary has called the deaths of 4 migrants in the English Channel truly awful, as charities are calling for more safe and legal asylum routes. More than 60 people were rescued after their boat capsized just after 4 a.m. off the coast of Boulogne. Latest Home Office figures show 419 people made the journey across the Channel in 6 boats on Tuesday. It suggests an average of around 70 people per boat, taking the provisional total for 2024 to now just over 14,000. In the US, President Joe Biden has vowed to fight on despite 2 major gaffes at the NATO summit and a growing number of Democrats calling for him to stand aside. Speaking at the Washington event last night, he mistakenly referred to the Ukrainian president as President Putin before correcting himself.
Ukraine will prevail in this war, and we'll stand with them every single step of the way. That's what the compact says, loudly and clearly. And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway.
But despite that mishap and another mistake involving him naming his Vice President Kamala Harris as Vice President Trump, Sir Keir Starmer has defended Joe Biden's leadership of the NATO summit. The Prime Minister, who earlier insisted Mr Biden was not senile and was on good form, faced questions about the President's mental ability just moments after the US leader's gaffes.
I was with him last night. We spent best part of an hour together, covering a lot of ground. We've been through 2 days of this council and come to a very good outcome. He's led through all of that, spoken in every session, pulled people together, and we got a good outcome, and I think he should be given credit for that.
Royal news, and the Princess Royal has begun her first public engagement today since suffering concussion in a horse-related incident. Anne, who's 73, spent 5 nights in hospital after she was believed to have been struck by a horse while out walking on her estate earlier this month. It's understood the visit earlier to Hartpury College in Gloucestershire is the first step in her phased return to public duties as she recovers. And finally, before we hand back to Dawn, some sport for you. And England striker Ollie Watkins says he is ready to deliver again if he's given the chance in Sunday's Euro 2024 final against Spain. He came off the bench to score a dramatic 90th minute winner in Wednesday's semi-final against the Netherlands. And now the King has asked Gareth Southgate's side to alleviate the blood pressure of the nation by avoiding late drama in the final. But these psychic penguins at London Zoo, well, they're predicting a disappointing result for England. I'm not convinced penguins are totally reliable. We'll find out on Sunday. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sam Francis. More for you at 7 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
I've just been told to keep the penguin slander to a minimum, but they're wrong, aren't they? Come on, psychic animals, who believes in any of that stuff? In any case, welcome to Dewbs and Co. I'm Dawn Neeson, and joining me until 7. I have a wonderful panel for you tonight, so you really don't want to go too far. Conservative peer in the House of Lords and trade unionist Paul Embry and Daniel Moylan. Lovely, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Now, get your news. More importantly, it's about you, right? Not what any of us think. It's a Friday night. Who cares what we think? But we think what you want to care about. So get your views coming in now at gbnews.com, your say, /your say. I remember that at one point, honestly. Now, let's get cracking on our first story, shall we? Keir Starmer and his Labour government have recommitted to spending £3 billion a year in Ukraine as they continue their war against Russia. The announcement was made as the Prime Minister attended a NATO summit and warned that the international community cannot waver with this conflict. But I'm asking tonight, do we actually need to carry on back in the Ukraine to the hilt? Or, big or, should funds be limited and would they be better off maybe spent here? After all, we're not having a good time, are we? NHS is on its knees, cost of living crisis, education, crime, our prisons are overflowing. We need money spent on our services here. So that's a lot of money going to the Ukraine. Paul, I'm going to come to you first on this one. A lot of criticism from viewers about the amount of money we have pledged to hand over to the Ukraine, which both the Conservatives and Labour actually agreed on, didn't they? So have we still got two cheeks of the same backside as far as defence is concerned?
I think we have, and I've got no problem with helping Ukraine to beat back the invasion, Dawn. But I don't think this war is winnable. That's the problem. The war, I don't think, is any longer winnable for Ukraine. And what we're going to do, I think, by just the constant call, the demand for more and more war, I think it's just going to prolong the agony, prolong the war. It's going to drive it into an even deeper quagmire than it's in at the moment. And what does that mean? It means thousands more lost lives. It means thousands of young Ukrainian men.
They call it the meat grinder, don't they? Because that pretty much sums up.
That's what they call it. And young Russian men and communities and families being ripped apart. And look, Ukraine, I think, and I think most experts recognise this now, that Ukraine is burning through men and equipment probably faster than they can replace them. And because they're not going to win this war, they're not going to be, and I think that's sad, by the way, because the invasion is terrible, but they're not going to be in a position of strength when negotiations do eventually happen, as they probably will.
Do you think we should stop pouring so much money into it?
In principle, the invasion was such a violation. I think it's right for other countries to say, look, we're going to assist Ukraine in beating that invasion back. I would have liked to have seen a much greater effort, much sooner than now, to actually try to broker some peace, to the point where we shouldn't even now be talking.
A bit like Nigel Farage said. Nigel Farage said, we need to talk. We need to talk to Putin, engage Putin.
And you know, not just Nigel Farage, but even people like His Holiness the Pope has been saying, look, we need negotiations around this. And I'm surprised, actually, that here we are now, kind of 2 years into the current phase of the war, because the war didn't start in 2022.
It started in 2014, didn't it? Which we all ignored.
It's a myth for people to suggest that it started in 2022. It didn't. It goes back to 2014 and even arguably before that. But certainly for the last 2 years, there's been no effort by senior figures, the international community, to broker some sort of peace. You've got NATO coming out a couple of days ago and saying there will be an irreversible path to membership for Ukraine, which I have to say strikes me as the most irresponsible thing to say, and is real serious sabre-rattling, and I think it's just going to inflame the situation. So my simple position, the invasion was wrong. I hope it's defeated. We should have tried to embrace peace negotiations much sooner than now, and Ukraine is probably now not going to be in a position of strength when those negotiations do come.
Well, I mean, Daniel, we do seem to be literally funding a stalemate where thousands of people are losing their lives. Nothing seems to have been advanced any further. Only the other week we saw a children's hospital bombed. So it doesn't seem like any one side is winning. Thousands of people are dying. Is it time to stop this funding, sit down around the table and try and talk it out?
Can I just come to the first thing you said, which was about, you know, foreign policy and the two parties? On Ukraine, as Paul has said, there is agreement between the two main parties. I think more than two main parties, I think the Liberal Democrats and so on, there's agreement. But I think it's already the case, we might not explore it today, that there are really worrying differences emerging on foreign policy more globally between the new Labour government and the outgoing Conservative government that have not yet been discussed, and they're very worrying and troubling. But when it comes to Ukraine, the fact is that Ukraine already has a peace deal with Russia. It already has a peace deal, and Russia's broken it. Russia is led by a man who sent people into the streets of Salisbury to murder people on British soil with no embarrassment, made a great joke of it as far as I could make afterwards. So what is this deal that you're going to do that you will trust lasts more than 5 minutes after you've signed it? That's the first question. The second question is, any deal you do, any negotiation you do at this stage in the war is going to result in a Russian victory. It might not be a total occupation of Ukraine, but it'll be a partial occupation of Ukraine at the very least, and dominance, complete dominance of Ukraine's foreign and largely domestic policies for decades going forward. So they'll be running Ukraine, effectively. But it won't stop there, and this is the point I really want to make. Because if you talk to the countries that are bordering Ukraine and, you know, out on and Russia and Belarus, out on the eastern side of the European Union, and you talk about the knock-on effect that's going to have on them, what you're doing is you're setting up a situation where we're not part of the European Union, I'm glad to say, but they're our nearest neighbours, the European Union. Our nearest neighbour, a really important power, is going to be dominated by a hostile, barbaric power next to it, potentially for decades to come.
Daniel, are you suggesting that Russia would invade other countries?
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm talking about... No, what I'm saying is, think back, because I'm so elderly. Remember the situation of Finland during the Cold War. Finland was a Western country, it was a free market country, anyone could go there, it was not behind the Iron Curtain. Everything that happened in Finland was approved by Russia before it happened. Their foreign policy was dictated by Russia. It was something called Finlandization. Their foreign policy was dictated by Russia. It was all cleared.
The days of the Soviet Union.
Cleared. Yeah, that's what we're. Well, we're in a worse days than the Soviet Union now. Russia is more aggressive in many ways than the Soviet Union.
Russia has nothing.
Russia is more aggressive than the Soviet Union. I didn't interrupt you, Paul. Even their school textbooks, their history textbooks, were cleared by the Russians before they were put into schools. And I'm talking about that sort of domination that you will get, that will directly affect the eastern part of the European Union and consequently ripple through elsewhere.
So what sort of countries are you implying that Poland and countries like that will be?
Countries like that, if you give in, Poland and countries like that, which cannot withstand Soviet threats, which are under threats already of a cyber character and so forth, we know that, but are also, right up against the border with these countries, they will suffer a huge setback in morale.
So tell me this, Daniel, why hasn't that happened to those countries since 1991 when the Soviet Union when the Soviet Union dissolved? Those countries have not been living in fear of Russian domination, or a Russian invasion. I think what is happening in Ukraine is a very unique set of circumstances where you've got disputes over Crimea, you've got disputes in the Donbass and the treatment of the ethnic Russians in the east of Ukraine. And that led to an invasion which, as I say, was wrong. But I don't think there can be any doubt that there was a particular set of unique circumstances, including NATO bellicosity, let's be honest, which led to that. Now, if you're telling me that that was the first step for Putin in some master plan of a greater Russia, not necessarily sending troops in, but having some sort of soft domination over the Polands and the Baltic states, the Latvias, the Lithuanias, Estonias, etc., I don't think there's any evidence of that at all. Moscow, since 1991, Daniel, has conceded a huge amount of territory and has never looked at taking that territory back. Ukraine as the exception.
It's perfectly obvious, isn't it? Well, after 1991, we all believed, and a lot of Russians believed, that Russia was going to become a peaceable state that was part of the, if you like, the Western... We could all live together relatively peacefully. They'd have lots of free market stuff. They'd have McDonald's. They'd have all sorts of things that were visible to us, but they would change and they would develop in certain ways, and they'd become a market-oriented and peaceful sort of economy. And we believe that all the time. Is there a plan? Of course there's a plan. Before he's actually written the plan, before he's published the plan, before he invaded the recent invasion of Ukraine, there was that famous essay he wrote in which he explained why it was that the Ukraine and Belarus is part of this too. You do not imagine that Russia would allow democracy to take root in Belarus, because that's already part of this. This was a plan he had for reuniting what he regards as core Russian territory. And that includes the Ukraine and Belarus. And he wrote this all and published it. Ben Wallace wrote... Ben Wallace wrote... Well, all of this is exactly what Hitler said over the Sudetenland, isn't it?
Come on.
All of this is exactly what he said.
We're into Godwin's law now, where we're going back to
It's just one adjustment. It's what they would always say. We just need to make this one adjustment. We're worried about German speakers in Czechoslovakia. We just need to sort them out. Come over, Mr. Chamberlain. Sign the piece of paper. Sign the piece of paper.
Daniel,
we'll agree it. We'll transfer
every time
the
there's a territorial
and
dispute.
then, of course, there's the next one. And it's not every time there's
there's a territorial dispute. People will always depict that particular dictator, whoever it is at the time, whether it was Nasser back in the 50s or whatever, as the next Hitler.
The words you are literally using are the same words that were used to justify Hitler's stance. This is not... The parallels are so close here, Paul. You are literally using those words.
When you consider the power and the might of the German military in the 1930s and the manner in which they were able... And
the German military
clearly intended to march through much of Europe, I think the idea that we can extrapolate from a particular dispute in Ukraine that Putin wants to do something similar to Hitler in terms of expansionism, I think is entirely fantastic.
Can I just get one thing clear here, Daniel?
Actually, as it happens, when the German army did eventually invade the rest of Czechoslovakia, it largely broke down
Daniel, we're running out of time, unfortunately. Just one thing clear. You genuinely think that unless we carry on funding and the rest of NATO carry on funding the Ukraine, that Putin is in danger of doing a Hitler and he won't stop until we stop him?
Absolutely, and it will be a process. I didn't say... I was very explicit in saying how I thought Russia's influence would be exercised over Eastern Europe and rippling through to the rest of the European Union. It would not be the first time French troops have paraded through Paris.
If Canada were to enter into a military alliance with Russia and China, what do you think the reaction of the White House would be?
I think they'd be a little unhappy about it.
Oh, I have to go there. I'm being a little unhappy.
Yeah.
Fascinating debate. Thank you both very much. Right,
it's all NATO's fault. This is Paul's view.
We have to...
It's all NATO's fault.
Okay.
I didn't say it's all NATO's fault. We should do a deal with someone...
I have to move on. Gentlemen,
who
please.
cannot be trusted to keep his
Handbags
word.
down, gentlemen, please.
Right, okay. We should relieve the whole thing is going to stop at the borders of the Ukraine.
Shush.
That's
Right,
what
Paul, don't you dare. Right, okay.
That's the view.
Right, we'll move on. Right. Lordy. Should the monarchy be more like us, not rowing like this, by the way, and modernise, or should they keep debating? Don't row with me. I'm a judge, supposedly. In any case, should the royals modernise, or should they keep to their old ways and be a bit like our late Queen, a bit more never complain, never explain, a bit more mystery? What do you reckon? Don't go too far.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Welcome back. Stefan Kyriazis has, as ever, been to the theatre and saw one of the most successful performers of the modern age, one who has made his name in different genres on television and is always a magnetic presence on the stage. About whom are we talking, Stefan?
We're talking about James Corden at the Old Vic for The Constituent and its Traverse staging. So audience on either side, and it's a fantastic experience. But also it's been done this time to bring everything in a lot and make it quite intimate, because you just have one simple set. It's just a table, office space. This is a new play by Joe Penhall, and it's addressing very, very current issues of safety, especially for people in public service. Doctors, nurses, teachers, and of course, as you know, politicians that are at risk and being attacked. So we have Joe Cox, Sir David Ames, and we have politicians talking about cancelling their surgeries, not wanting to appear in public, teachers being threatened. And James Corden plays an ex-serviceman who is going through a difficult divorce, dealing with a lot of PTSD, also feeling very much like fathers are overlooked, and he wants to fight for their rights. And an old school friend is a local MP, played by Anna Maxwell Martin. And he goes in to start talking to her, and it starts off quite chummy and jovial, and then it darkens and darkens. He gets quite aggressive and frustrated. She wants to help. She's an absolute idealist. This politician sense of we don't choose who we work for. You know, we are here by duty to work for everybody in our constituency. It spirals a lot. I have to say, Corden, sensational. Really? He really is a fantastic actor. Of all of them, he's so natural, and he has the most difficult role where his character is shifting all the time and becomes potentially quite threatening and dangerous, but then there's also a beautiful catharsis at the end.
The People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, honestly. I could tell you what's going on at the break, but I would definitely get sacked. I've certainly got complaints. So do not read that out, Daniel Moylan, or else. Right, this is Dewbs and Co, and I'm not Dewbs, I'm actually Dawn Neeson. You might have spotted the difference slightly. Keeping me company until 7 o'clock. Conservative peer in the House, Lords Daniel Moylan, and trade unionist and Paul Embry. Thank you very much for starting the show off in such a feisty mode. Lots of reaction coming in. You're not reading yours out, because yours are very rude.
I sent that about me. That was
it was about you, to be fair. It was about
text
you.
message too.
Yeah, you got that over there quickly. Right, and this is on the Ukraine debate we've just been having, Greg. If Ukraine falls, what next? It's unpalatable spending, but it's essential. So on your side. Meanwhile, over here, we have on your side, Paul, I'd be happier if if Ukraine provided receipts for where the money actually goes. Some say nobody knows where it's going.
Very corrupt country.
Well, you're not the first to say that, and you won't be the last. And PJ says, why is no one calling for a ceasefire in the Ukraine like we are in Gaza? Interesting. We're not having people marching along the streets on this one, are we? In any case, we have to move on. So do not read that out. Do not. I see your poise. Right, now, last week, King Charles fist-bumped a cricketer and the nation has gone into an etiquette meltdown. Our monarch is famous for waving and handshaking, but it's a hard job, isn't it? But this new greeting could be a signal that Charles is trying to be a man of the people and get down with the kids. So should it be actually fist-bumping? Daniel, I'm going to come to you now. I'm trusting you. I had to demonstrate what a fist bump actually was just now.
I had not heard of a fist bump. I wasn't really aware what a fist bump was until I read this story.
I'm not going to punch you at someone.
I understand that there are issues about cultural appropriation involved.
Oh, well, there always is.
You're allowed to fist bump if you're white. I mean,
well, we just did it. Come on, we're both white. We can.
We
fist
did
bump.
just do it, but we're doing this is demonstrative.
Cardinal sin.
This is not.
Oh,
now
God.
be cancelled.
Cancelled completely. So, I mean, we can do it.
Did I do it right?
I don't know. I don't normally. I normally shake
right
hands.
way or the wrong way?
It felt kind of right. It was a fist and we bumped. Right. Okay. But should King Charles be fist bumping? Shouldn't he just make like his late mum and be a bit more dignified and shake people's hands?
Well, look, the fact is, the monarchy, the great thing about this country is the monarchy embodies in human form the entire nation.
Oh, dear.
And that's the wonderful thing about it. And so King Charles is not just the head of state. He's also a human being in a wonderful sort of way. And, of course, he's going to have a human reaction. Somebody comes up and they offer you a hand to shake. You're going to shake their hands. And if somebody comes up and they offer to fist bump and you know what you're talking about, and he does and I don't, he's going to respond because it's a matter of courtesy and a matter of human interaction. And I don't think there's anything to fuss about in this regard. Now, I agree, it's difficult to imagine the Queen, the late Queen, doing a fist bump. She would have... One could spend the whole of this evening actually thinking how she might have handled that.
Well,
it would have been done.
I don't think
it would have been offered to her in the first place.
But it probably wouldn't have been offered to her in the first place.
Because this is the West Indies cricket team here.
Something immensely dignified, charming, effective, and
can you imagine what she'd have done if someone went, right, all right, you Madge?
Chinned him, probably. But I don't think that West Indian cricketer clearly felt that it was something.
Michael Louis, his name is,
but I don't think he would. I don't know, but I don't think he would have done that to her late Majesty.
The Queen, no.
And I tend to agree with Daniel that what else?
Oh my God!
Yeah, I know. You bank it. What else could he have done in that situation where the cameras are there?
Yeah.
And if a cricketer says, give us a fist bump, I think most people would have thought it would have looked a bit discourteous if he said, no, I'm not going to do that, you best shake my hand. So he was in a bit of a difficult position. But I do think there is a broader point about whether I'm not a monarchist, but whether the royal family should try to become sort of more trendy, more fashionable, to become more human, because I think much of the respect for monarchy, and as I say, I'm not one, I'm not a monarchist, lies in the fact that it is seen as being a bit distant, a bit aloof. There's a sense of sort of mystery around it, and that sense of mystery leads to that respect and reverence. And if they just become like the family next door or the bloke down the pub...
Or some of the European royals, you know, the Danes, Norwegians, the Spanish. I mean, they're just riding around on bikes, getting on with it.
And people might then think, well, what's the point? If they are no different to us, are they just like politicians? Are they just like any other celebrities? So you know, I say that as a very mild Republican, that my advice to the royal family would be, you know, try to be human by all means, but don't try to be with the zeitgeist the whole time. Don't try to become too fashionable.
Because otherwise we'd be thinking, what are we paying for them?
Exactly.
We'll just get rid of them.
Exactly. And, you know, for people who don't like the monarchy, then they would probably encourage that. Because I think that... Do you remember in 2012, we were talking about 2012, the Olympics earlier, Daniel and I, off camera. Do you remember the Queen and the James Bond thing?
Yes, yeah, we saw a clip of that earlier on, actually.
And she jumped out of the helicopter. Now, on one level, it was very, very funny and very well put together. And, you know, everyone thought it was great. But you can't help but feel that actually if the monarchy are doing that sort of stuff, it does strip away that kind of sense of distance and mystery, doesn't it? So, so I think there are two arguments there.
Oh, I don't know. I think jumping out of a helicopter is so rare and unusual an event in my life that I regard it as very mysterious and grand. I mean, nobody's ever asked me to jump out of a helicopter.
Just to be clear, the Queen didn't actually.
Push you
they might
out
want to. But you're going to get this fantastic opportunity on Wednesday this week coming to see the King in his non-fist-bumping role, because we have the state opening of Parliament, and he will process in his carriage, in a fleet of carriages, I think that's the right word, from Buckingham Palace all the way down Whitehall, all the way down to the front of the House of Lords, through the Victoria Tower, upstairs, where he will, in the mysterious darkness of the robing room, he will change from or he will add to his uniform.
His baseball cap.
He will put on his great robes, and then he will process, wearing the crown, through the Royal Gallery.
But this is what we like, isn't it?
Into the House of Lords.
This is what we like. We like
where
the pomp and the ceremony.
He will read the speech prepared for him by Sir Keir Starmer.
You'll be front row in your ermine, won't you?
I will be there in my ermine, I have to say, in my red robes and ermine. I will have to fight for a front row seat because we don't get seats allocated. You have to get there early if you want to. And, of course, a lot of the seats, they put extra seats in that are benches that have no backs, agony. So you've got to get there.
I was going to say, how does that work? I mean, I know it's completely off topic. I'm just being nosy.
That has a back.
Do you sort of like fist bump people out of the way?
Well, I
will now. Now he knows how to do it.
I have actually seen that done. I have never actually had to. I've only done it a few times, but I've been in the House of Lords 4 years, and it doesn't happen every year. And one year it was COVID, and the Queen came without the crown and just in a very simple, stripped-down sort of way. And another year she couldn't come at all because she was too ill. So the Prince of Wales and Prince William, as he was, came in her place. This is only the second time I've seen it done, sort of.
Properly. And you're looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it. No, it's great fun,
ermine.
and you sort of you dress up, and it's all.
Sounds a bit itchy to me. Sounds a bit
itchy. But you do have to get bags your seat if you want a nice one. Yeah, get there early.
I think it's pretty harmless. I mean, it is antiquated, isn't it? And people may look at it and think it's anachronistic, and why are we doing all of this with carriages and horses and plumage
out in the street? It's a great
crowns
show.
And so on. But I suspect that in other countries they probably do look at it. Whatever your political views about monarchy, they probably do look at it and admire it in such a way that their state openings are generally quite sort of sterile
just roll
affairs,
up on their bikes in a baseball cap, don't they? Right, not quite. I'm running out of time. Gosh, time's flying, isn't it, tonight? Right, now we have to move on, but we're talking music. A music festival has banned items of clothing that, checking notes here, promote cultural appropriation. Come on, fun please. What the hell is going on here? You don't want to miss this one. They're going to kick off again, I know it. Ermine robes and all. Don't go too far.
Good evening. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast coming to you from the Met Office. Looking ahead to the weekend, and Sunday looks largely dry for many places, but through Saturday there will be some showers and some more persistent rain affecting eastern parts due to a weather system that's pushing its way in from the North Sea. So overnight, many eastern parts of England are going to turn largely cloudy, and there'll be some persistent rain for some of us. Further west, a greater chance of staying dry, but even here, some outbreaks of rain at times and quite a bit of cloud for many of us, though there will be some breaks in a few places over central western Scotland perhaps. Here temperatures could just about dip into high single figures, but elsewhere it's going to be a relatively mild start to the day tomorrow. It is also going to be a damp start for some eastern parts. Starting off looking in the south though, across central southern parts, some brightness first thing, 1 or 2 showers perhaps. A cloudier story as we head further north, particularly towards the east in those North Sea coastal parts. It is going to be quite a grey, damp day through much of the day. Some brightness perhaps for Northern Ireland, and the best of the sunshine across Scotland will also be towards western areas further east. We will see some thickening cloud and some outbreaks of rain pushing their way in. All that rain then towards eastern parts will make its way a little bit further westwards as we go through the day, so more places seeing some rain for a time, but it will be breaking up a little bit as we go through the day as well. Further west, yes, a better chance of seeing some brighter breaks in the cloud and also a few showers, so these not as heavy as those that we've seen today. Temperatures still a little bit on the low side for the time of year, just about scraping into the low 20s. Much of the rain will clear away as we go into Sunday, though clinging on to some rain in the far east of England first thing. Otherwise, some bright sunny spells, again some showers likely to develop, but these won't be quite as widespread as those that we've seen through today and we'll see through tomorrow. So a drier day for many before the rain is likely to return early next week. Bye-bye.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, my name is Johnny Ratner. Major problems in County Durham continue for the A1M. The motorway is blocked northbound, junction 60 to 61 between the Bradbury and Boburn exits after a lorry caught fire. That is causing long queues back towards Darlington. On the M6 in the West Midlands, 2 lanes are out northbound, junction 6 to 7 near Birmingham at the scene of an accident. In Norfolk, the A47 remains shut between Great Yarmouth and Acle following a serious accident. In North London, Kentish Town Road is closed in the one-way system near Camden Town Station for emergency gas repairs. And the M5 in Devon remains closed in both directions between junction 28 and 29 north of Honiton for accident investigation work. Buses in for Transport for Wales, trains out of Cardiff Central to Rada. Services being diverted at Llandaff. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Hello, welcome back. This is Dewbs and Co with me, Dawn Neeson. Obviously not Michelle, slight difference. I hope you're having a wonderful Friday night out there, keeping me company until 7 o'clock. I'm really glad they are as well. It is Conservative peer in the House, Overlord Daniel Moylan, and trade unionist and author Paul Embry. Thank you so much for staying with me as well.
Thank you,
now we're going to talk about the fun, please. You two both look like you enjoy a festival at all. Sort of like, yeah, Daniel? Yeah, no, he's looking at me like I'm completely mad. Now, Wireless Festival in London has banned any clothing that promotes cultural appropriation. However, it doesn't specify which items fall under this ban. So, should we be allowed to wear whatever we like at different cultures, or do you think it's inappropriate to do so? Now, Paul, I'm coming to you first on the grounds that you possibly go to festivals more than Daniel. Occasionally, or might have done in the past. No disrespect, Daniel, but...
I wouldn't assume.
Right, OK.
But this is clearly... No, I mean, I would have loved to...
I can see you with the long red dreadlocks. Fine.
I would have loved to go to Glastonbury, but I've never been to Glastonbury, unfortunately.
You're not middle class enough.
No, you're
not middle class enough.
Working class.
Always too busy working. Never went to university, and therefore, you know, spoke with a working class accent. So therefore, I wasn't. You're
not getting in Glastonbury. It's blooming expensive and all.
Yeah. But this is.
Oh, you'd have to do it glamping, wouldn't you?
Well, you would
Because
obviously.
you keep on topic used to. I mean, come on.
You'd take your own.
You know, 10 or 11,000 quid for the weekend.
But this is that's a day's wages for you, Daniel. But this is clearly bonkers, isn't it? You know, everyone should be free, in my view, within reason, making sure you stay within the bounds of decency, to wear what they want. If they want to go to a music festival and wear a poncho or a sombrero, or if I want to wear my hair in dreadlocks or whatever, I should be free to do it. And I don't think it's for anybody else to say that actually culturally you've committed some transgression and you shouldn't be allowed to do it. You know, the culture police get you and say you shouldn't be allowed to do it. These things are not copyrighted. They are not copyrighted to particular groups.
So even dreadlocks, I mean, because dreadlocks is the one people coming back to. I mean, it's like non-black people wearing dreadlocks.
I think you should be absolutely entitled to wear your hair in the way that makes you comfortable.
Oh,
if you want to wear your hair in dreadlocks, you should be entitled to do it. And I don't think it's for anybody else to say, actually, that's from my culture and you've got no right to do it. Because I think the problem...
What about black people who do find that offensive?
Well, I'm sorry, but I think it needs to be challenged. If they do, then I think the problem is with them for taking offence rather than the person who has decided to wear their hair the way that they want to wear it. I mean, because the problem is, where does that end? If somebody says, if I say I want to wear a beret, which is, as we know, started in France, and a French person said, well, actually, that's my culture and you shouldn't be allowed to do it, I think most people would laugh at that. So why do we make special exemptions for other items of clothing or for other styles of wearing your hair? I think as long as you're not seeking to harm people with what you're doing, you should be free to dress with whatever attire and wear your hair in the way that you are comfortable with, and it's for no Tom, Dick or Harry to say, no, you're not going to get away.
What about Daniel? Daniel?
Well, I've just had a terrible thought. I mean, I came here... I walked here this evening, you know... And
not in your ermine.
I came across the park... No, but I wasn't. I was wearing my Panama straw hat against the sun. I've just realised, of course, Panama's...
There you go.
Panama's in that. Is somebody going to come up
on you.
and whisk my Panama hat off my head?
You're cancelled.
I agree with everything that Paul has just said, strangely, so I won't repeat it.
No,
for the benefit of your viewers. I'll develop it a little bit. I think, first of all, the sheer arrogance, the mindless, petty, insulting arrogance of the organisers of this festival, who dare to speak to customers, paying customers, and these festivals, as we've said, and this is not Glastonbury, these are not cheap to go to, who've paid money to go to this festival, for them to dictate what they wear, not on grounds of decency, which I can understand, perhaps, not on grounds of safety, which I could understand if there were safety issues, and you have an effect on the crowd, but on grounds, you know, dictated by some overpaid American professors who've spent their life developing theories of cultural appropriation in order to earn high salaries, is such an insult that the only proper response to this message is a boycott. All the customers should say, we are not turning up if
just
that is
not
the
go
rule.
to Wireless Festival.
We are just not going to go until you learn your proper place in life, which is that you are providing us with entertainment we are paying for so that we can enjoy ourselves for a weekend.
They think that this kind of nonsense brings people together and unites people, but actually it does the very opposite. People look at this kind of hysteria and they see how much it actually divides people and how much it actually causes conflicts, and you end up becoming a society that is constantly walking on eggshells because you are worried about the next group that you're going to offend or the next person you're going to offend. We all know, you know, what offence means in terms of if it's gratuitous, if it's racial abuse and things like that. Obviously, that needs to be challenged. But there's a world of difference between that kind of stuff and people just simply donning a garment that makes them feel comfortable. And I think the pendulum has swung so far in that direction.
Look, I mean, the truth is that fashion and what people wear is entirely international anyway. It has been cross-cultural and
silk kimono dressing gown.
It has been cross-cultural and it has been...
I know you like them.
For centuries, what people in Britain have worn has been affected by what they saw people in France wearing, going back hundreds of years. And now it's a thoroughly international business, actually, as much as anything else. You go anywhere in the world and you go into an office in Singapore, go into an office anywhere in Asia, they're all wearing trousers and white shirts, which, you know, because it's an international uniform.
Do you think there is a cunning...
Are we all meant to turn up dressed like we're in maypole dancing?
Well, I was going to say, what if you are English, and very few of us are just pure English, what are you meant to wear? I mean, sort of like Morris dancers? I mean...
Obviously, cricket whites. That's what we need to wear to prove that
nobody wears cricket. Have you ever watched a game of cricket in the last few years?
No.
Test matches still.
Is there a cunning plan here, though? I mean, you see lots of youngsters wandering around wearing the keffiyeh scarves, you know, the Palestinian scarves now. Yeah,
of course.
I mean, is this a cunning plan on behalf of Wireless to stop people wearing them, which, as we know, can be...
They could have said that. They could have said you can't wear national symptoms or symbols or flags. Other people have done so, or you can't display them. Now, whether that's a right or a wrong thing to do is another question. But if that was their purpose, they could have said that. They have explicitly tied this to this bogus notion of cultural appropriation, which is actually, you know, learning and borrowing and copying other cultures is absolutely crucial to the way in which the world has developed, and all of us have developed. You want to cut yourself off from that. And as you say, either wear cricket whites or maypole clogs, Morris dancing clogs, then you're a complete nutter, frankly.
And well, you touched on it earlier. Who arbitrates on this stuff?
Yeah.
It's simply one person sitting in a room with their own particular political and moral prejudices who come to the view, actually, this is going to be the rule and thousands of people are going to have to abide by it, whether they like it or not. And the problem is these people are not challenged enough because there are too few people in society with a bit of backbone who are prepared to say, actually, this is rubbish and we're not going to buy it. As you said, Daniel, we're going to boycott it until you back down.
And can I just say one thing? We know quite a lot about dress in the Roman Empire, going back 2,000 years, and they had ponchos. On cold days, on cold days, they had garments which had holes, circular garments, had a hole in the middle, and they put their head through them, and that's a poncho. And there's nothing. Where do the Latin Americans get the ponchos from? Probably from the Roman Empire.
Nicked from them, yeah.
I don't know where they got them from.
And
what did they ever do for us? Well, they gave us the ponchos.
It is what did the Romans ever do for us? They gave us ponchos. And frankly, you don't have to be. The idea that a poncho is so special and unique that it was only ever invented once. It's obvious people are going to create ponchos because they work.
And just not the festival goers.
All over the place. Well, lots of countries.
You're obsessed with ponchos tonight, aren't you?
Well, ponchos came up, you know. Panama hats are a bit more sophisticated.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
It's so obvious,
What I want to know is, what about the food stalls, right? OK, the punters are all banned from wearing their ponchos and their sombreros. But what about the food stalls? What about the white people there, who are British, English people, cooking jerk chicken?
Or pasta. I mean, we didn't have pizza. We didn't have spaghetti in this country until the 1960s.
I mean, the jerk chicken is a controversial one, but why should it be? Why should it be any more controversial to cook jerk chicken as a white person as it should be, as Daniel said, pasta or, you know, pizza or whatever it is, whatever dish of any particular
it should be overcooked
nation, or whatever. You know, why should it
and
be,
cabbage?
Why should we be more sensitive? Why should we be more sensitive around
like it used to be
dishes that are originate from the Afro-Caribbean community?
Was it Jamie Oliver that got pulled on that? Was it one of our famous chefs got pulled on doing jerk chicken recipes?
I'm sure I think that's true actually, and I'm sure any chef would get pulled on it in a way that they wouldn't if it was any other group's or nation's particular culinary dish. But that's the world that we're living in.
So if I've got this right, we sit around, we're wearing cricket whites, or possibly tweed, or Morris dancing, eating beans on toast, or beans on...
You know, just out of interest, just going off topic a little bit, you know the chasuble that priest wears saying Mass, you know, over his head, front and back, you know that? You know that's derived from the Roman poncho.
You are a bit weird tonight, aren't you?
I'm a bit weird tonight, but I just want to say, if there's cultural appropriation going on, I think it's the other way around. I think it's the Latin Americans stole it from us.
Right. And
it's worth looking into.
But the Wireless Festival organisers don't know that. You stick a call.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But if you're watching the Wireless Festival,
it'll be full of priests instead.
Nicki Minaj is headlining, by the way, if anyone's interested in the actual music. Right, we have to move on. Right, coming up, it's hopefully coming home on Sunday when England plan the Euros. Oh, well, no one's mentioned. But there are no England flag on the streets of London. Should Sadiq Khan be flying those flags? You don't want to miss this one. Don't go too far.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Khloe Kardashian has come under fire after posting a picture of her 6-year-old daughter wearing a full face of makeup.
Yeah, the reality TV star said the youngster was participating in a dance recital and that wasn't an everyday occurrence.
So this morning we're asking, is it ever OK to let children wear makeup?
Well, joining us now is journalist Julie Cook. So, Julie, it's a child wearing full rouge, bright red lipstick, hair tied back, looking very, very stylised, very much, I think, like a young adult. Is this really the sort of thing we should be doing with small children?
Oh, I think it's absolutely fine. I mean, first of all, in Khloe Kardashian's case, it was a dance recital, so it was very much a kind of performance element to it. She said herself in her post, it wasn't something they do every day. She was taking part in a dance activity. So, you know, I think she's vindicated on that front. But I've let my daughter play with makeup since she was 3. When she was 3, she showed a distinct interest in my makeup palettes, going through my stuff. She's 10 now, and while I don't let her wear a full face like a drag queen, I do let her wear, you know, a bit of mascara on a weekend if she wants to. I don't see any harm in it.
Clearly, if you're a child of a Kardashian who's paid millions of dollars to endorse cosmetics, you know, that's part of the fabric of their family. My concern, though, Julie, is putting those pictures on social media where people can see them. We live in an age now where, you know, wrong-uns are scouring the internet all the time.
A lot of girls do enjoy putting makeup on. It's almost like a self-expression thing. It's like painting on a canvas. They're just trying to be a bit artistic. I don't think it's necessarily as sort of sinister as we're making out. And I think as long as you're not posting pictures everywhere or putting them at risk of harm, I don't see any danger.
The People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
She could have saved Storm.
you made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Oh, yeah, the flags. There isn't something.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Right, OK. Well, you know, honestly, they're so frisky. I know it's a Friday night. I know we've got an England game coming up, but and they've got alcohol now. It's going to get worse. This is Dewbs and Co with me, Dawn Neeson, and keeping me company. You've just heard them. Until 7 o'clock is Conservative peer in the House of Lords, Daniel Mollen. He's got a bit of a poncho thing going on, but we're not going back there. And trade unionist and author Paul Embry, who's coming in dreads next time round. But if you missed that, you can catch up on it in any case. Now, there's a little football game going on this weekend, evidently. On Sunday, it might be coming home, it might not, who knows, we've been here before. England play in the Euros final against Spain. Someone's probably a culture appropriating that as well. However, if you walk through the streets of London and probably other big cities, you would never know it. Now, in London still, we have got beautiful rainbow flags flying up Regent Street and Oxford Street and all the big streets in the West End of London. So where are the England flags? That's what I want to know. Where are they? I haven't seen... I mean, I've got my flag on my balcony, and I hope, gentlemen, you've both got England flags out?
No. I'm afraid not.
So, why are we not flying the Cross of St George? I'm going to come to you first on this one, Daniel. I mean, there's none. I haven't seen... Well, you know, we've got nothing wrong with the Pride flags. Rainbows, lovely. Who doesn't like rainbows?
Isn't Pride Month over?
God,
it's every month now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's every month.
Pride year now.
But, you know, it's fine, lovely, but where are the England flags?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we should put the bunting out and celebrate and show some identity. But our authorities don't seem to be very interested in doing this. And it's not just a question of blaming Sadiq Khan. I mean, now his election is over. I can be political about him. He is just a misery. That's the main problem with Sadiq Khan.
I wish you'd sit on the fence more with him, to be honest with you.
It's just, you know, fun is not a word you associate. No. I mean, even Ken Livingstone, whom I had more admiration for, was more fun and jokey than Sadiq Khan. And Boris, of course, was good fun as well, but not Sadiq. So where is it all? But it's not just him. You know, these streets, Regent Street, Oxford Street, they have what are called business improvement districts, and it's very often businesses clubbing together. And these business improvement districts are very often the ones who are paying for the flags, actually. So they're making many of the decisions. And again, I'm being nice about Sadiq now. He's not actually responsible for those streets and what's put on the lamp columns. There are some streets he's responsible for, but it's not those.
But if he wanted to, he could say to the business companies...
That's the Labour councillor in the city of Westminster who are responsible for those streets. So I'm sorry to be a bit boring about the technicalities. So you really need to look at... There's this sort of globular, sort of business, lefty... you know, sort of wokish, Labour sort of stuff, which are all willing to identify with any sort of cause that they pick up. But when it comes to saying we're actually backing our side, we're actually on the side of our guys who are out there playing this match, and we want to identify with them, and we'd like them to win. There's no exuberance, there's no fun, there's no show at all. Are we going to win? I've no idea if we're going to win. Wouldn't it be great?
Possibly want Spain to win.
Are we going to lose again?
We're
probably going to lose again. I don't know. But at least we'll be out there with some fun, showing we're backing them.
I think, in his defence, look, we only won the semi-final 2 nights ago. Was it 2 nights, 3 nights? 2 nights ago, I think.
It doesn't take long to hang a flag up.
No, that's true, but it probably does take at least a couple of days to get it organised, and I suspect we may see a flag or two around, I hope we do, around London, but in his defence, it shouldn't just be about Sadiq Khan. I know London's the capital, but we've got other big cities as well. I'd like to see Andy Burnham in Manchester, you know, making sure some flags are flown there, and the mayor
when Manchester
Liverpool
got him, we got the short straw, didn't we?
Sheffield and everywhere else, and maybe even local authorities. So it shouldn't be just be targeted at Sadiq Khan, but it would be nice. It's not very often.
Gentlemen, I'm going to have to cut you off in your prime. In any case, enjoy the game. Cheers. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Paul Emery and Daniel Moylan. Thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast coming to you from the Met Office. Looking ahead to the weekend, and Sunday looks largely dry for many places, but through Saturday there will be some showers and some more persistent rain affecting eastern parts due to a weather system that's pushing its way in from the North Sea. So overnight, many eastern parts of England are going to turn largely cloudy, and there'll be some persistent rain for some of us. Further west, a greater chance of staying dry, but even here, some outbreaks of rain at times and quite a bit of cloud for many of us, though there will be some breaks in a few places over central western Scotland perhaps. Here temperatures could just about dip into high single figures, but elsewhere it's going to be a relatively mild start to the day tomorrow. It is also going to be a damp start for some eastern parts. Starting off looking in the south though, across central southern parts, some brightness first thing, 1 or 2 showers perhaps. A cloudier story as we head further north, particularly towards the east in those North Sea coastal parts. It is going to be quite a grey, damp day through much of the day. Some brightness perhaps for Northern Ireland, and the best of the sunshine across Scotland will also be towards western areas further east. We will see some thickening cloud and some outbreaks of rain pushing their way in. All that rain then towards eastern parts will make its way a little bit further westwards as we go through the day, so more places seeing some rain for a time, but it will be breaking up a little bit as we go through the day as well. Further west, yes, a better chance of seeing some brighter breaks in the cloud and also a few showers, so these not as heavy as those that we've seen today. Temperatures still a little bit on the low side for the time of year, just about scraping into the low 20s. Much of the rain will clear away as we go into Sunday, though clinging on to some rain in the far east of England first thing. Otherwise, some bright sunny spells, again some showers likely to develop, but these won't be quite as widespread as those that we've seen through today and we'll see through tomorrow. So a drier day for many before the rain is likely to return early next week. Bye-bye.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, my name is Johnny Ratner. Problems continue on the M6 in the West Midlands. 2 lanes are blocked off northbound junctions 6 to 7 north of Birmingham. A collision is being dealt with by the police. Queues bound to Castle Bromwich. On the M1 in Leicestershire, the 2 inside lanes of 4 are closed northbound at junction 24, the East Midlands Airport turn-off south of Nottingham, where a car's broken down. Just a heads up, the Surrey stretch of the M25 will be closing at 9 o'clock this evening across the weekend for the ongoing major improvement works in the A3 and Chertsey. Expect delays across the weekend. If you're heading west on the M4 towards Bristol, just before the M32, everyone's been squeezed into the inside lane past the scene of a breakdown. The M5 in Devon shut just northbound now, 29 to 28 north of Exeter for accident investigation work, and there are delays on trains in Watford Junction and Milton Keynes Central after a train broke down at Tring. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Summer could be a scorcher, with your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date. It's totally tax-free, which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash,